On the morning of August 14, 2005, Helios Flight 522 was preparing to depart from Larnaca Airport to Athens, Greece. At exactly 9:07 a.m., the flight took off. There were 115 passengers and 6 crew members on board, making a total of 121 people. The captain was German pilot Hans-Jürgen Merten, who had 16,900 hours of flying experience. The co-pilot was 51-year-old Pompos Charalambous, with 7,499 hours of flight experience. Just 15 minutes after takeoff, at around 9:12 a.m., the aircraft reached an altitude of 12,040 feet. Suddenly, an alarm went off. The pilots believed it was a takeoff configuration warning, but this confused them because such an alarm usually occurs before takeoff, not at high altitude. They couldn't understand the reason, so they contacted ATC, Air Traffic Control, to report the issue. At that very moment, another alarming warning sounded. Multiple alarms started going off in the cockpit, making it difficult for ATC to hear the pilots clearly. At the same time, a master caution alarm activated, indicating that several systems were overheating. The pilots were overwhelmed and confused. Passengers began to feel uneasy. The cabin crew tried to calm them down. Meanwhile, passengers started noticing difficulty in breathing due to lack of oxygen. Shortly after, the oxygen masks automatically deployed. At this point, the aircraft had reached 18,000 feet. The pilots repeatedly tried to contact ATC, but communication was breaking up. Eventually, all contact with the aircraft was completely lost. Despite multiple attempts, ATC could not re-establish communication. The aircraft continued climbing. Normally, the flight duration to Athens was about 1 hour and 45 minutes, with a scheduled arrival at 10:45 a.m. By 9:30 a.m., the plane had climbed to 34,000 feet. At 9:37 a.m., it entered Athens Flight Information Region. Between 10:12 and 10:50 a.m., Athens ATC made repeated attempts to contact the aircraft, but there was no response. 10:45 a.m. passed, the scheduled landing time, but there was still no trace of the aircraft. Fearing something serious had happened, Athens ATC dispatched 2 F-16 fighter jets to locate the plane. After some time, the fighter jets found the aircraft. One jet approached closely and observed that the captain was slumped over, unconscious, while someone appeared to be sitting in the co-pilot's seat. The jet circled the aircraft. Shockingly, none of the passengers showed any reaction despite being followed. No movement, no response. At 11:49 a.m., the fighter pilot saw an unidentified person entering the cockpit from the cabin. He sat briefly in the pilot's seat and attempted to control the aircraft. The fighter pilot tried signaling him. The man also tried to communicate something, but couldn't. Just 1 minute later, the left engine failed, and the aircraft began descending, tilting to the left. At exactly 12 p.m., the right engine also failed. The man lost complete control of the aircraft. At 12:04 p.m., the plane crashed into a mountainous area about 4 kilometers from Athens. All 121 people on board were killed. Just imagine the feeling of the fighter jet pilots, watching 121 people die helplessly, unable to do anything. The crash became headline news worldwide. Rescue teams quickly arrived and recovered all bodies. However, during autopsy, investigators discovered something even more horrifying. Everyone on board had already died long before the crash. This raised a critical question. If the pilots were already dead, who was controlling the aircraft for those 2 hours? The answer was the person seen entering the cockpit, flight attendant Andreas Prodromou. Just before the crash, Andreas tried to contact Athens ATC and repeatedly called Mayday 5 times. However, he had no training to fly a Boeing aircraft. Still, he managed to steer the plane toward an unpopulated area in his final moments. Investigators later discovered the real cause. They found a switch on the control panel, the cabin pressurization switch. This switch controls airflow inside the aircraft, ensuring sufficient oxygen levels. Normally, it is set to auto mode, but in this case, it had been left in manual mode. To understand why, investigators looked back to the previous day. The aircraft had undergone routine maintenance. During maintenance, technicians had set the pressurization system to manual mode, and unfortunately, it was never switched back. During takeoff, the pilots did not notice this setting. As a result, oxygen levels inside the cabin gradually decreased. Passengers began experiencing headaches and symptoms of hypoxia. The pilots heard alarms, but tragically failed to identify the real issue. Eventually, both pilots lost consciousness. Although oxygen masks deployed in the cabin, they only supply oxygen for about 12 minutes. After that, passengers also lost consciousness. Although oxygen masks deployed in the cabin, they only supply oxygen for about 12 minutes. After that, passengers also lost consciousness. However, one person survived longer, flight attendant Andreas. Why? Because Andreas was a trained scuba diver. Scuba divers are trained to control their breathing and can tolerate low oxygen environments for longer periods. This allowed him to remain conscious longer than others. By the time he reached the cockpit, everyone else was already unconscious or dead. He made a final attempt to save the aircraft, but ultimately failed. The plane crashed, and everyone on board lost their lives. If you like this story from the channel, don't forget to share it.